Everyone, today we're going to unpack a really fascinating piece of medical detective work. It's a story about a mysterious brain disorder and a totally surprising clue that scientists found hiding in plain sight in the blood. Let's get right into it.
Okay, just think about this for a second. There's this debilitating brain disorder out there, and it's incredibly difficult to diagnose because doctors can only go by the symptoms they see. But what if? What if you could spot it with a simple, routine blood test? Well, that's the big question this new research decided to tackle.
Oh, right. So, to really get why this study is such a potential game changer, we first need to understand the condition at the heart of all this. And that's the very frustrating and mysterious MAGE syndrome. So, what exactly is MAGE syndrome? Well, it's a form of dystonia, which basically means it causes muscles to contract and spasm when you don't want them to. And with MAGE, it's all focused on the head and neck. We're talking about really forceful, uncontrollable blinking, spasms in your jaw, your mouth, your tongue. As you can imagine, it can have a huge impact on someone's life.
Now, here's the real problem. It usually shows up in adults, and it's much more common in women. But the single biggest challenge has always been the diagnosis. There are no blood tests for it, no special scans, no biological markers at all. Doctors have to rely completely on what they can see. And for patients, that can mean a really long, really uncertain road to even getting an answer.
So if you're a scientist trying to crack this, where do you even start looking for a clue? There's no obvious trail to follow. Well, the researchers behind the study made a brilliant connection by looking somewhere you probably wouldn't expect. Okay, this is the light bulb moment. They knew that Meige syndrome involves a part of the brain called the basal ganglia, which helps control our movements. And you know what other condition affects the exact same area? Parkinson's disease. Now here's the kicker. Previous studies had already found a link between Parkinson's and weird issues with blood clotting. So the researchers had this incredible thought. If these two diseases affect the same part of the brain, could they possibly share this strange connection to blood coagulation? And that, right there, was the big question. Was it possible that something as basic as how our blood clots, something you can measure in any standard lab, could actually hold the secret to diagnosing this really complex brain disorder? That's what they had to find out. So, to put this idea to the test, the team did a pretty large study. They took blood test results from almost 500 patients who had Meige syndrome and compared them against results from over 600 healthy people, just to see if any patterns popped out. And wow, did they find something. It wasn't just one little difference. It was 7. They found 7 separate markers related to blood clotting that were consistently, significantly different between the Meige patients and the healthy group. This was the first huge sign that their hunch was right on the money. Let's break down one of the big ones. This chart shows something called APTT. All you need to know is that it's a measure of how long it takes for blood to clot. And look at this. In patients with Meige syndrome, that clotting time was shorter. Their blood was in what you might call a faster clotting state. This one single marker turned out to be a really strong predictor. And here's another piece of the puzzle. Fibrinogen is a protein that's absolutely crucial for forming a blood clot. The study found that its levels were way lower in the Meige patients. So you see, it's not just one thing, but this whole pattern of changes that pointed to something being consistently different in their clotting system. Now, finding these signals was a huge breakthrough, but just knowing about 1 or 2 markers isn't really enough for a doctor to make a diagnosis. The real genius of the study is what they did next. They figured out how to combine all these clues into one simple, practical tool. So how'd they build it? Well, first, they narrowed it down to the 4 most powerful markers. Then they built a statistical model that gives each of those 4 factors a certain weight based on how predictive it is. And finally, and this is the best part, they turned that complicated math into something anyone can use, a graphical risk calculator called a nomogram. And this is what it looks like. It's a tool where a doctor can literally take a patient's blood test results for those 4 key things, find them on the chart, add up the points, and get a single score. And that score tells them the probability that their patient has Meige syndrome. It's just a really smart way to turn a ton of complex data into a clear, simple answer. You don't have to take my word for it. The researchers themselves summed it up perfectly. They said they've created a quick and effective screening tool for assessing the risk of MS. And notice, they said it contributes to diagnosis and management. This is about getting people help so much faster than we could before. So let's bring it all back down to earth. All this science is fascinating, but what does it really mean for the people who are actually living with this condition? What's the real-world impact here?
Well, for starters, it actually works pretty well. In the scientific paper, they use a metric that basically boils down to this. The model was accurate in assessing risk in about 75% of cases. For a condition this tricky to diagnose, that is a fantastic starting point for a new screening tool.
And really, this is the whole point. For years, diagnosing MAGE has been subjective. It's been based on observation. This tool offers something objective, something based on hard numbers from a simple blood draw. It's fast, it's non-invasive, and it gives doctors a real, powerful tool to help get their patients on the right track way more efficiently. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? This whole neurological puzzle started to unravel by looking at the blood. It just leaves you with this final, really cool question. What other medical mysteries are out there just waiting to be solved? Not by looking where we're supposed to, but by finding clues in the most unexpected places.